Hello, friends. This is part 2 of Metatron and Metatron's library. So Metatron explains that we have these 4 different roles that we play when we decide to manifest into a specific form. And those 4 things, those 4 roles are placeholders, disruptors, creators, and observers. So with these 4 roles, we get a chance to play every part of the matrix. Like we get to play every role that is going to affect the matrix and affect the collective consciousness that we are a part of. And so we're going to go through each one because what it seems is that when we play these roles, we get to level up our evolution. By evolution, I don't want it to make it seem like in the end we have a goal and will we ever get there? Because I feel like evolution seems like we start as this amoeba and we end up being this floating god. Once we get to that floating god state, we are so understanding of what this all is that we will gladly and lovingly go back to being an amoeba just to experience it again. And I remember when I realized that, I felt a little bit of annoyance and sadness that in my mind I had this idea of all these years, like I have to just get to that state of being enlightened and completely aware and back in unification with God. But you get tastes of that throughout your life. And all those tastes do is turn you back to the will to want to do it again because it's so enjoyable just feeling like you're growing. We start to appreciate and see ourselves as that whole being, even when we're making the mistakes, even when we're the amoeba, even when we're just an animalistic awareness and, maybe we're just embodying a plant. We are so grateful and beyond excited to be that plant. So I believe that we just cycle and do this over and over, maybe on Earth, then the next time we're on planet whatever, and we try it over here, we're a dolphin this time, and we just continue to experience over and over. And again, when you take time away, we're actually experiencing all of this at once. So right now, I'm also a plant. I'm also a woman on planet X doing this, making mistakes, a bad person. But when we sit in that library and we sit in that understanding of self, we have immense gratitude for all of the experiences that we live and immense appreciation for the lessons that we learn while being each one, no matter what. Those lessons all hold equal weight. So these 4 roles that we play, we consciously choose them, and then it's up to us to fully embody them. So we forget all the other lives that we're currently living and all of the lessons that we learn. We bring over some here and there, but we're pretty much going with the flow of what we agreed to be. So let's break them down. Let's start with disruptors. Disruptors, you can kind of imagine what that name means. It's someone who comes into the matrix, into the physical realm with the intent of disrupting. And by disrupting, that doesn't necessarily mean that they have to be, a murderer or the worst imaginable low vibration being. I'm sure disruptors who are the sweet little church lady and she disrupts everyone that she comes across. She rubs them the wrong way. She's doing shiesty stuff behind people's back. She gossips. A disruptor is anyone who disturbs the peace, right? And a lot of children, you can see this in them. You can look in a classroom. I used to be a teacher for 10 years, and you can see on the first day of school who's going to be this disruptor, who's going to interrupt every lesson, who's not going to follow the instructions and stand in line. All of those things, those can be disruptors. So they can be any kind of rebel. They can be someone who's disrupting the peace for the peace, for the better of humanity. And it reminds me of like Kali energy, if you're familiar with her. It's like you have Shakti, who is very peaceful, and then you have the Kali energy, where it's very much like, no, we're going to tear all this up because I don't know what's going on. That is the disruptor. So maybe that is you. And becoming aware of this means that you can actually use that disruptive role to understand and benefit your experience, your own evolution here, and how that then influences those around you. So if you feel naturally that that is your personality, I actually feel very much that I am in parts a disruptor. What that does is then you can channel that destruction into a place of, I'm going to destroy what isn't bringing humanity to a place of evolution. I'm going to disrupt my own mindsets. I'm going to disrupt, maybe the ancestral trauma that my family keeps passing on. There are many ways to disrupt in a way that actually aids your evolution and the evolution of others around you. All right, then we have observers. So observers are very much on that planet, in that matrix, to observe and to learn and to absorb. And how I imagine this is that I'm going to planet X and it's different than Earth. The people are different, the humanoids, their customs, their language, everything is different. And this lifetime feels completely, maybe even overwhelming to me. So I take very much that backseat and I observe this whole lifetime. And I learn and I embody, I get adjusted, but I'm just observing. And that doesn't mean that you don't understand on a higher level what's going on, but you very much play that role and allow yourself to believe that this is a lifetime that I'm going to be a little more muted in my influence. How that then helps your evolution and those around you in the collective is by being the role of someone to teach. So there's a lot to learn when you can become the teacher and when you are the one showing someone how to do something. And we're going to get to that in creators, but being the observer is on the other end and saying, hey, will you teach me the customs of planet X, and can you help me, understand this language? Being that observer means that you are the teachable one. You are the one that others get to play off of in order to help the collective evolve. This is where your ego has to take a back seat. Hearing this could make one feel like, why would I ever want to go to a planet and just be an observer and a weakling? But it's not a weak role. It is very much a role of humility and of watching. You think of someone who just goes to see a game being played and they love watching this game. Does that mean that they're a less of an important person than the star football player that they're watching? Not at all. They have their parts of their lives that are meaningful and possibly even more at peace than that star football player. So the observer very much is a strong role. It takes a strong personality to go to somewhere and observe with awareness and being wholly present in watching and learning and absorbing. And you have the creators, and the creators are kind of like that star football player or just someone who is actively manipulating the matrix and manipulating their influence here. The creators are actively breaking cycles, they're actively influencing others, they're actively using maybe their voice to communicate what needs to happen or how someone can learn something better or do something better. They're creating new solutions to things, they're creating new ideas, they're coming up with ways to actively help others evolve, including themselves. And they're just there to change in a very peaceful, organized, and thoughtful way, different than the disruptors. Then you have the placeholders. The placeholders are these neutral roles that we play. We come onto the planet, we commit to that matrix, and then we say, but we're going to be here mainly holding space. We're not going to disrupt. We're not necessarily focused on creating any changes or doing anything in the creative realm. And we're not necessarily observers. We're not going to be as aware as, an observer who's really absorbing. We're kind of just going to go to our job and do what we got to do, and not necessarily not care, because you do care. You care about every role that you embody, but you are holding space possibly for another purpose. So let's actually think of this with a family, okay? So you could say, well, I'm going to be very stereotypical here. So we'll say that you have the dad who's very masculine, high energy, very much a disruptor of that family. Kind of, stirring the kids up, has a little aggression, okay? Typical stereotype. And then you have the mother who's the creator. She's thinking of solutions, changing things around, trying to make things work, trying to help the family move forward. And then you have a child who more so takes the back seat. That child is observing their parents' roles, the family dynamic. Maybe they're just saying to themselves that, hey, this seems out of balance. It shouldn't be like this. I wish we could stop this way of being a family. I wish we could evolve from this, but they're very much still the observer. And then you have the child who's the placeholder. Perhaps they just follow along. They don't really even notice that anything's off with the family. They don't even notice in particular that their dad has a role, their mom has a role, and their brother has a role. They're kind of floating through life, holding space as a family member of that circle of beings, right? Those 4 beings. They're just neutral. They're still playing this role with purpose, but there's not necessarily big, giant lessons that are going to be learned in that lifetime for that placeholder. They are allowing themselves to experience more from a place of neutrality, and even in a way that they'll look back and want to grow from that neutral place. It doesn't mean it's low at all, but it just means that I'm going to come here, and my job as an extra, my job as a placeholder is to die in a car crash when I'm 3. So that then my dad changes from being such a disruptor into more of a creator, and my mom becomes more of a disruptor. It changes her life around. She gets angry. She has this now. She has to go through these trials in order to get back to peace. And my brother, now he's gonna change very much into a creator or a placeholder and take a back seat. And these roles are interchangeable, is what I'm saying. These roles, we come onto the planet to play a major one, but that doesn't mean that throughout our lives we don't interchange with one another. And in doing that, having the ability to play different roles, that too helps us evolve, and it helps us become aware of these roles that we play, and how beautiful it can be to embody even anger, embody neutrality, how beautiful it is to come up with solutions and use our voice and create a class on a new way of understanding something. Even being a disruptor and saying, I'm going to be the one when I come down to this planet in this matrix to end this cycle, or to begin a new cycle, or I want to experience what it feels like to completely go against all the rules put out there, even the ones that are so-called good. These are things that we want to experience. And then when you think about that, and you think of someone who was very disruptive as a teenager, completely destructive to themselves, to those around them, to their family, and they mature and they grow, and now they're, in their 30s or 40s, and they're actually a creator role, or they're more of an observer role, really reflective. Maybe they've attracted a partner who is very much like a placeholder, but grounds them in that neutrality of being stable. There's so many ways to think about this, and I encourage you to reflect on your own life to see what you embody in different phases of your life, depending on how old you are, and even where you might see yourself going as you get older. I know for myself, I very much took a role of placeholder as a child and observer. I feel like I was kind of a balance between the two, wanting to be a little bit invisible as a placeholder, but also very observant. And then went through a phase of being a disruptor and rebellious, somewhat in a way of just trying to understand what life is, right? Not in a way of wanting to harm or, create problems for anyone around me. And then now I feel as though I'm shifting into a creator role where I'm using my voice more, I'm expressing myself more, I'm trying to create change within myself, within my family, within those around me, and I'm being more aware and conscious of how I can do this. And then that doesn't mean that I won't change back and go into another role in order to find peace in another stage of my life. Okay, so those are the 4 roles. Now, despite these 4 roles, what Metatron again comes back and wants us to remember is that when you enter this library, when you enter this state of awareness, of being whole, being loved, surrendering the story that you created on earth, you enter that library as nothing. You enter that state of being as nothing, and you allow yourself to understand and process everything that went on through an emptiness, through the ability to absorb that light, that God consciousness, and learn through it in a non-mental way, through the heart. You're remembering that this library, this state of awareness that you are in, is a completely loving, safe space. It is non-judgmental. You are completely loved, accepted. It is completely understood why you did the things that you did, playing the role that you played in whatever matrix that you just participated in or that you're currently participating in. You are worthy of knowing and understanding and evolving and experiencing all of the roles that life has to offer. And it is a gift from God. As many times as we want, we get to experience these over and over in different combinations, in different realities, in different bodies. It is an amazing gift to become aware of it. Lastly, he gave a mantra affirmation meditation, and I will be putting that guided meditation on my Substack. So if you are not subscribed to Substack, Substack is my hub. It's completely free, and you can donate by donating a monthly subscription, but it's completely free if you don't want to. And every time that I post a new episode or a guided meditation or anything like that, it will be on my Substack. And so, yes, my Substack, you will see the guided meditation for Metatron's mantra. I would love to hear your feedback on what role that you feel you're playing right now. You can leave it in the comments either on YouTube or on Substack. And I'd love to hear what you think of the meditation and how you feel afterwards. I always find with myself that if I'm starting a new meditation, to do it at least the whole week to see how I feel. But sometimes you might feel something immediately right away. Definitely journal and take down notes of how you feel and what you experience, even your dreams that you have that night, and whether this impacted you in any way. Let me know in the comments, and I will see you on the next episode.